All right, let's get started. The time is 6:30. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Street Life Committee meeting of Community Board 8 for the month of October. My name is Abraham Salcido and I chair this committee. A few rules of the road before we get started. I'm going to proceed down the agenda and invite each applicant and or their representative to be unmuted, state their name, and tell us a little bit about their application. After they have done so, I will invite comments or questions from members of the public. After the members of the public, I will turn to my fellow committee members for any questions, comments, etc. Reminder that any motion or action that this committee takes will go to the full board meeting for the full board vote. That is on Wednesday, October 19th. Furthermore, for the applicants, when I invite you to speak to your application, some helpful content in addition to your name, the type of application, let us know any hours of operations, whether there is any outdoor, meaning rear yard space for the establishment. Also, whether or not the place is ADA compliant and whether or not there have been any complaints with regards to the space. Okay, so that's it for the applications. The other rule of the road is to remember that we operate under rules of decorum here. We're all here to voice our thoughts and opinions with regards to the merits of each application, merits being the key. So please keep your comments to the merits of an application. Refrain from any personal attacks or anything extraneous to the merits of the application. Anyone that does not follow the rules of the decorum will be muted and will waive their ability to speak any further at the meeting. And I think that is it. So with that, Will or Robert, I will turn it over to you for the technical rules of the road.
Sure, thank you, Abraham. Welcome. If this is your first time joining us, everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting, except the committee chair, Abraham, and the presenters. Following the presentation, Abraham, the chair, will call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon, pressing the raise hand, not the wave or the thumbs up icon. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're on the phone, it is *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the chair calls on you. The chat is for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems, not to ask questions of the chair. He will not see these chats. If you have an older version of Zoom, you will need to go to the participant section where you will find the raise hand feature there. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. Chat me, I'm here for support.
Great, thank you, Robert. A little supplement on my prior rules of the road. Please also refrain from any crosstalk, any comments, questions, etc. Please direct them to me as the chair, not to any other individual at the meeting. Okay, so with that, Will and Robert, I'm just gonna do a quick rundown to make sure I have all of the committee members accounted for. I have myself, Addison, Bill, Evan, Jane, Judy, Casey, and Marco. Is there anyone that I'm missing? I don't believe so.
I see Elizabeth Ashby just joined us.
Okay.
If
yes,
there's any committee member that we missed, please raise your hand or chat me.
Okay.
I don't see any, so.
Yep, I think that's it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, including myself. Yeah. Okay, great. So with that out of the way, we're going to jump right in with the first item on the agenda, item 1A. Do I have the representative of 828/850 Madison Avenue Members Club, Inc.? Yes, Mr. Bookman, how are you? Welcome back.
Thank you, Chair Salcedo. I am well. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I understand that there's been progress made between yourselves and the residents. So do you want to give us an update based on your perspective?
Yes, and thank you for that opportunity. Good evening, Chair, and good evening, members of CB8. My name is Max Bookman. I'm an attorney. I frequently appear before this committee, and I am a resident of the Upper East Side. This is our second appearance before you on the Robin Burley Private Members Restaurant on Madison Avenue and East 70th Street. We were before you in August, and it was a pretty lengthy appearance, and so I'm not going to rehash all of the details of that appearance, other than just to say that this was an application that was originally approved before the pandemic at a different location. That location didn't work out because of the pandemic, so we found this new location on Madison and East 70th. At the August meeting, there were several votes in favor of approving us at that meeting. However, the votes that carried the day were to table the matter, and we were given two tasks to accomplish. One was to get the committee better clarity on the 500-foot law and its applicability to this case. And second was to speak with the representatives of the neighbors who came in opposition to our application and find ways to address their concerns. And so I'm happy to report that we've done both of those things. So quickly on the 500-foot law issue, we've corrected our submission now to properly indicate that this application is subject to the 500-foot law. The surveyor's report that we got, that we previously relied upon, was accurate when it was done, but it was just done a while ago. It was in February of this year, and there's been some recent additions in licenses since then. So when we went and got a resurvey done, we saw that the 500-foot law does apply, and we're happy for it to apply. We think there's public interest to approve this application. So that shouldn't be, I know that raised some eyebrows, so that shouldn't be an issue that's on the table.
Okay.
As it relates to speaking with the neighbors, we've had a sustained dialogue that's been ongoing now for 8 weeks over the course of several emails and telephone conversations. Even though you had all voted to put this matter over only 1 month to September, at the request of the neighbors, and because of some of the steps that we were taking in response to their legitimate concerns, we, on our own initiative, put the matter over again without even appearing, from September to October. So that's why it's been 2 months since we saw you last. The result of our meetings with them is an extremely detailed set of stipulations that we have proposed, and it's a document that's a negotiated document. It's the product of edits and red lines and comments, et cetera, between us and the neighbors and their representative. We think it is directly responsive to the concerns that were raised by the neighbors that we all heard at the last meeting. And we submitted that document. It's over 4 pages long, and we submitted it to you this evening.
Yeah.
And what we're asking is for that document to be a part of your resolution recommending approval. And we, of course, will likewise submit that document to the State Liquor Authority and ask that it be incorporated into our liquor license application and thus be made binding and enforceable against us. I'd like to say that we have obtained the neighbors' support, but I don't think I could say that. You'll hear, I believe, from counsel for the neighbors tonight, who is going to say that they wish that we had put this matter over once more to November for further discussions. We can't do that, and we've been pretty transparent about that. We put this over twice now, and we do need to move forward. But we are proud of these stipulations that we've come up with together. We think that the process has made our proposal stronger. We do think that it's very responsive to the concerns that the neighbors have raised. And so what I'd like to do is just briefly summarize the main elements of the stipulations. It's a long document. I'm not here to read every bullet point. We've submitted it to you, and I know, Chair, that you don't want that, but I do want to just touch on the high level issues that we've addressed that were raised at the August meeting and came up in our conversations with the neighbors. And so the first, and I think most primary, is the use of the side streets, especially East 70th Street. We heard a lot of concerned comments about our utilization of East 70th Street. We understand that concern, and we've addressed that in a really robust way. So first of all, the stipulations reflect that we're not going to allow any vehicular traffic associated with our business whatsoever, be it member drop-offs, delivery trucks, garbage or recycling. No vehicular traffic whatsoever associated with our business will stop to do its business on the side street of East 70th Street or East 69th Street for that matter. Everything will be done through drop-offs, through stops and parking at Madison Avenue. So that includes member drop-offs, like I said, delivery trucks, garbage and recycling. As far as pedestrian use of the side streets are concerned, members will only enter in and out of our Madison Avenue entrance. Non-food deliveries, so things like silverware or flowers or things of that nature, will be carted from Madison Avenue through an additional service entrance that we've added on Madison Avenue. And we've added that service entrance just to accommodate these requests that we've gotten from the neighbors. So we've actually spoken with our landlord and took over, in the last 2 months, took over the additional storefront that we previously didn't have, which is right on the corner of Madison and East 70th Street. And on page 15 of our papers, we show you the before and after of the floor plans. And part of the reason why we've taken that over is so that we can have more frontage on Madison Avenue to have an additional service entrance. So non-food items will be carted into that service entrance, relieving any usage of the side streets. Food deliveries will be carted from Madison Avenue, where the trucks are stopping, into the service entrance on East 70th Street. And similarly, garbage and recycling, that's going to be kept in refrigerated storage units within the building, so never any trash on the streets. We're going to have carting come, or our commercial carter come twice a day, and we're going to hand cart the garbage and recycling out of our East 70th Street service entrance directly over to Madison Avenue, where the truck will be waiting to take it, and that's going to be done twice a day. So that's a big relief of the use of East 70th Street, which was a great area of concern. We've also applied to the Department of Transportation to convert the parking lane that's directly in front of our space on Madison Avenue to a loading zone. We're hoping to have the community board's support in that and the neighbors' support in that. But regardless of whether that's approved or not, we are continuing with the plan that I've just outlined to utilize Madison Avenue, like all the other businesses on Madison Avenue do. Sound mitigation was another large topic and area of concern. So there's been a great deal of sound studies that have now been conducted, both by our sound engineer, our mechanical engineer, as well as a sound engineer and a mechanical engineer hired by the adjacent building, who they selected and we financed the cost of. And they've reviewed our experts' report. And we've agreed to follow all the recommendations of those reports. And the top line of those reports are, even before agreeing to make any changes, our reports, which have been looked at by the neighbors, said that there'll be no perceivable noise in the adjoining residential unit from the use of our space. But as added good measure, and as at the request of the neighbors, we've committed to adding an additional noise dampening material covering the entire wall between our building and the neighboring building. There was some discussion of that in August about, is it just part of the wall or is it the whole wall? So now it's the entire wall. We're going to have an additional noise dampening material, as well as on the ceiling between our floor and the third floor. And so there really won't be any noise perceivable at all outside of our premises. Same with our mechanical equipment. We've walked the neighbors through the mechanical equipment and the maintenance procedures that we're going to have in place. There's no perceivable noise or odors from that. And then finally, events. There was a number of questions from members of the committee about how we are going to have events and what way are we going to have events, just a desire for greater clarity on the utilization of events. And so we've worked that through as well, and that's also covered in the stipulations. First and foremost, like we said in August, this is a restaurant. It's a private members restaurant, but it is a restaurant. So the overall character of this business, unlike a Soho house, because I know that was mentioned in the last meeting, the primary character of this business is that of a restaurant. What our stipulations propose is there will only be 2 times maximum a year where we ever have a buyout of the premises. And that's a buyout. That's the way the SLA, that's their term for events, buyout of the premises. So that's only going to happen 2 times maximum per year, with 15 days advance notice made to the neighbors prior to such event. and only for members, so no third-party events or buyouts. With that said, we do recognize that there may be smaller functions that aren't entire buyouts, that are more just akin to large reservations, that may be desired by a member for a wedding or something similar. So the limitation that we put on that is, to the extent that there are any smaller functions that aren't a full buyout, we're capping that at 200 people maximum, and it has to operate simultaneous to the use of the restaurant as a restaurant. So that ensures that the business has its overall character of a restaurant. So with all of that said, I want to thank you all again for hearing our application. I want to thank the neighbors for their comments. We think, like I said, it's made our application stronger. The stipulations are detailed, and I've given a high-level overview. I'm happy to discuss or answer questions about any particular details of any of the stipulations that we proposed, but we do think that we've accomplished the task that you've assigned us of speaking with the neighbors, hearing their concerns and addressing those concerns, and we hope that you'll agree with that.
Thank you, Mr. Bookman. Thank you for being very thorough and candid. I will go to the members of the public if there's any hands. I do want to say that I do applaud the efforts by both sides. I've kept an eye on, and I've seen the progress and the back and forth and some of the drafts with the red line. So I do think that, while I'm sure there will be comments and improvements suggested, I do think a lot of progress has been made. I will say that in my 10-year tenure, I've never come across a such detailed and collaborative and lengthy stipulation proposal. So I think that's a testament to both sides. So I think that was worth mentioning. So in the 2 months that it's been, I applaud both sides for really coming together and fostering that dialogue. And I'm also confident or strongly hopeful that dialogue will continue as the venture opens, and if things arise along the way, that this dialogue that was created here, this is not the last time there will be communications. Obviously, we're here as the board, but obviously, I'm confident that you guys have created a good dialogue and a relationships that if there's any things that need to be tweaked or amended along the way, that there is room to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good. So with that, I will go to the first hand of the public that I see. Jay Regas.
Jay Regas, just identify yourself for the record. And I'll just remind everybody that if you'd like to participate, go to the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen and look for the raise hand button. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Salcedo and members of the community board. Thank you for listening to me. My name is John Regas. I reside at 19 East 72nd Street and have been a resident of the Upper East Side for 30 years. My wife, Darcy, was born here, and other than her university years, she has lived here ever since. My office is at 667 Madison, and I have another business at 680 Madison. I have known Robin and his family and his businesses for over 20 years. I am a founding member at 5 Hartford Street in London, and my wife and I are members at Oswald's, also in London. I can tell you without any reservation that he and his team operate on the best standards at all his establishments. The best proof of that is the staff that works for Robin. They rarely leave, and most stay for lifelong careers. And that is always a great sign for a great business when evaluating a company. I have no doubt that 828 Madison will be no exception to this rule. And I have no doubt that the addition of a Robin Burley dining club will increase the quality of life for those living in the neighborhood and would boost foot traffic to local stores and local spending generally. The activity on the street and the doorman, especially on that block, will add much needed safety and security. And we all know that that block has been problematic in the last few years, especially after COVID. I walk by that block every evening when I go home from my office. I also believe that the addition of the retail corner at 828 Madison, moving all the activity on Madison Avenue, is very favorable to the cross streets and is not going to create any problems for the people that reside there. We all know what happened with Madison Avenue during the COVID years. It almost died, and it needs anything that can bring it back to life. We cannot miss an opportunity to bring good quality businesses to the street, especially in the high 60s blocks. And Robin runs high quality businesses that would be an asset to any community. You can see it from the number of the stipulations that he's very serious to be a part of this community, an integral part and productive part. And that's why he's making all these efforts. And therefore, I strongly recommend that the committee approves this application, which would improve the Upper East Side for everybody. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, John. Great. Moving on to the next hand, I have a Stephen A. Schwarzman.
Stephen, look for a prompt on your screen to unmute.
Yes. There we are.
Yes.
That worked?
It did.
Yeah, hi, I'm Steve Schwarzman, and I've lived on the east side of New York since 1972, so I've seen a variety of changes. I met Robin in 1995 because my business bought a hotel group in London, and one of the hotels was a very well-known hotel called Claridge's. And I was trying to recruit Robin's father to open a restaurant there. And I met Robin in the process. His father owned a club called Annabelle's, which at that point was the most famous, iconic club in London. And when his dad passed away, there was a fight for control over that business. And I helped Robin at that time, sort of deal with the situation. And Annabelle's was subsequently closed, and Robin wanted to open another club, which is now 5 Hartford. And, I was one of the first members. I had no idea if it was going to work out well. And they bought some completely rundown, awful place in a slightly, sort of little out of it location. And I took a tour. It was really just, down to raw brick and mud. And what he developed from that is the most popular club in London. It's sort of like a who's who of London that believes that belongs, and it goes from younger people in their 20s to people in their 80s. This is not a normal American type of skew for any kind of club. It's sort of like a magical place. I think the previous speaker, John, talked about the help that's been there forever. It's over facilitated with high quality people who make the thing work. It's got this sort of magical buzz. It's a very happy place, but it's always under control. The food is terrific. You actually can't find a higher quality operation, beautifully decorated, always with a little bit of originality. Robin is a creator. He's a hands-on manager. He's a person with enormous ethics, and he delivers something wonderful to anyone who goes in those doors. So I listened to the last meeting, and people were sort of suitably towing and throwing, and it was sort of a little frustrating to be a listener. But it seems to me that the parties have pretty well resolved whatever the problems are. Madison Avenue needs a lift. How many empty stores can you look at and still think it's New York? And that's not the way my life has been in New York, and it needs to go back. New York needs to revitalize itself. And you can't have a higher quality entrant than Robin. If he says he's going to do something, he's done it. He's looked at other locations here in New York. I sort of gave him some advice on some of this stuff. They just weren't high enough quality for him, and he let them go. So this is a very particular, precise, lovely guy, and you should have a lot of confidence that he does the right thing. He opened another restaurant and club in London called Oswald. Instantaneously, it became another one of those places where you sort of had to go. So I realize everybody has their own vote in this type of situation. To let Robin's application fail would really be a really sort of awful moment for New York. It would be another advertisement that New York doesn't want to really be the kind of place it used to be, where people used to come. And the city needs a lift. This is a lift. So I realize I sort of probably overstayed my welcome, but I feel really passionate about this. And it's also because I've had 30 years of knowledge of the person, the establishments, the quality, the unusual character of the whole operation. So with that, I'll go off the stage and let you do your business. Thank you very much for indulging me.
Thank you, Mr. Schwarzman. Okay, next I understand we have Milton Strom. Can we unmute Mr. Strom?
Yeah, Milton, be on the lookout for a prompt on your screen to confirm. There you go.
And also, did Mr. Strom, do you want Mr. Wohl unmuted as well, or will you speak separately?
I will speak separately.
Okay, great.
Good evening. My name is Milton Strom, and I'm the president of the 10 East 70th Street Cooperative Apartment, which, as you know, abuts the Westbury building. Since the August meeting of this committee, we and our representatives have had friendly, neighborly, and largely productive negotiations with the applicant's representatives. In this spirit, we have resolved numerous issues between us. Indeed, the applicant's representatives have complimented us on some of our ideas and stated that they had helped them in the execution of their plans. However, issues do remain, as described in our legal counsel, Ms. Weisberg's detailed letter and markup of the proposed stipulations, both of which are on file with the committee. This includes major issues relating to quality of life due to noise, vibrations, and odors which may emanate from the club's interior, including its 2 large kitchens and related exhaust, venting, and other mechanicals. The kitchens and mechanicals face an open space bordered by the rear of our building and several other buildings. These issues are highly technical, and we informed the applicant that we needed to retain both a mechanical and acoustical engineering firm to advise us in our board of directors on these matters. We respectively asked that the applicant pay the fees of these firms, and they readily agreed to do so. We now have these firms' reports, although the acoustical report was received just yesterday, and both raise thus far unanswered questions. The applicants and our engineers will confer soon in a good faith attempt to resolve these issues. They will then promptly report their conclusions and status to our board of directors and the applicant. I should also note that the applicant has advised that it will not be bound by the recommendations of its acoustician as to sound systems. And it's also said it would not agree to banning such items as subwoofers. So that's another open issue. Having said all this, we submit that approval of the liquor license application is premature because the engineers required and retained by us with the knowledge and approval of the applicant and at the applicant's expense have neither completed their work nor resolved major issues. Further, the proposed stipulations have not been agreed to, and the revised application contains errors as described in detail in our legal counsel's letter. We therefore respectfully request that the application be laid over until a November Street Life Committee meeting. This will enable us and our board to resolve these issues with the applicant on a timely basis. Otherwise, there will not be an effective way to achieve issue resolution. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to go to Dixon Boardman.
Dixon, look for a prompt on your screen to unmute. Dixon, the person named Dixon Boardman. Hit the unmute button on your screen, or we'll come back to you.
Does that work? Can you hear
That
me?
works.
Oh, splendid. My name is Dixon Boardman, and I am chairman of the condo board of 828 Madison Avenue, which was, as you all know, the former Westbury Hotel. I and all my fellow condo owners continue to wholeheartedly support the application by the 828 Madison Avenue team for a liquor license associated with their proposed members-only establishment. We are really excited for a number of reasons. First, having heard about the tremendous amount of outreach, time, and effort spent in working collaboratively with our neighbors, it is even more clear to us why having such an establishment in our building will be generally good for the neighborhood. Such dedication to ensuring harmonious operations is rare. Second, to have a good tenant in the building, one that will put the needs of the residents and neighbors front and center, as well as activating the retail of our building, will contribute greatly to neighborhood safety and security. And third, the establishment will bring much needed foot traffic back to Madison Avenue to help support neighborhood retail and contribute to the vibrancy of this iconic mixed-use corridor. Just a few additional points, if I may. As this space was formerly a restaurant, that operated with a license for many years without any incident, I and my residents think there should be no doubt as to the conformity of the use. Not only that, but a use that it would blend harmoniously in the community. Quality of life really has been another high priority for the 828 Madison Avenue team. Robin's team has worked to route as many vehicle impacts as possible off the side streets, which will ensure the vast majority of deliveries and for hire vehicles stay on the avenue, as well as they have fully soundproofed the interior space and finally moved all mechanicals to the very top of the roof of our building to remove any possible potential of sounds or smells to impact residents. I have known Robin for over 25 years and can speak up to the highest quality of operation he brings to every establishment he opens. I and my neighbors very much welcome this new establishment and believe it will greatly enhance the quality of life of the neighborhood. And for all those reasons, we urge Community Board 8 to support the work this team has done with residents and approve this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to go to Martin Klein.
Thank you, Chair Salcido and members of Community Board 8's Street Life Committee for the opportunity to speak in strong support of Robin Burley and the application for an on-premises liquor license at 828 Madison. My name is Martin Klein, and I've been a resident within Community Board 8 for over 50 years. For brevity, I want to adopt my prior remarks at the August meeting. I remain a strong supporter of Robin Burley and his proposed establishment. I am also a member of 5 Hartford Street. I've known Robin and his operations for over 30 years, and like my friend Steve Schwarzman, his dad before him, and I know that Robin and his team provide the highest quality of operation at all his establishments, and I'm convinced that 828 Madison will be the same. In fact, his addition of the corner retail will ensure that the operations are going to be focused on Madison Avenue, away from the residential side streets, and are further evidence that he will be a good neighbor. As I mentioned last time, I know the area very well, since my wife's retail and office location was in the Westbury Hotel, as Mr. Boardman may remember. And similarly, my past client resided at 10 East 70th Street. So I do know the area. I can say unequivocally that the inclusion of Robin's newest venture will greatly enhance the quality of life of the Upper East Side. It will also boost foot traffic and bring a modicum of safety to a desolate area at night. Robin's clubs are well managed with strict rules about sanitation so that no trash will be piled up and the sidewalks will remain clear. As a resident of Community Board 8 for my entire adult life, I have greatly appreciated the care and the quality that you've put into promoting the success of the neighborhood. I appreciate the high bar that Community Board 8 has set for establishments across the neighborhood, and I am convinced that Robin Burley will exceed those expectations. There is no doubt, as you saw in my previous letter, that Robin and his team will operate the new venture with the utmost high regard for their neighbors, for the quality of life, and for everyone's safety and well-being. I urge this board to approve the application. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Klein. Next, I'll go to Matt Bauer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Bauer. I'm the president of the Madison Avenue Business Improvement District. And as mentioned at the August meeting, we really do believe that this restaurant will tremendously aid the neighborhood and our commercial corridor, really make Madison Avenue continue to be one of the great streets of the world. And I really just also want to commend Robin Burley's team and for their outreach and communication with their neighbors here in the community, and just want to again offer our strong support for this very, very beneficial project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have a Carson Elias?
Yes. Good evening, Chair, and good evening to the Community Board 8. My name is Carson Elias. I was born in New York Hospital, grew up in 71st Street, live on 69th Street. I am a true Upper East Sider. Born through and through, have known Mr. Burley for over 10 years. My father knew his father. I've been a member of 5 Hartford Street, and I am a huge supporter of this new establishment. We've been hearing lots of words of resurgence, and I do feel that this is a real renaissance potential for Madison Avenue. The clubs that Robin owns are operated flawlessly, and we've heard that through everyone who's spoken. He really does represent best in class. I think the fact that the Madison Avenue presence will benefit the entire community, as we've heard, and generally the overall quality of life. Everyone is so buttoned up, so meticulous, from trash to staff and security. It really is an incredibly well-oiled machine. You see it in every single thing that he does, and I urge the committee to support this.
Thank you very much. Do I have Mr. Eric Wohl?
Hi, good evening. First, I want to thank Community Board 8 for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Eric Wohl. I'm an attorney at Armstrong Teasdale. We represent 10 East 70th Street, the cooperative corporation that owns the building next door to the proposed club. As some committee members may know, my partner Phyllis Weisberg cannot attend tonight's meeting. However, earlier today, she submitted to the committee a detailed letter requesting an adjournment of this matter until November. I'm not here tonight to restate the contents of her letter or the stipulation, both of which are self-explanatory. And further, I believe it is more important for the committee to hear from residents, including Milton Strom, who spoke a few minutes ago. However, I thought it was important to highlight a few items. First, our client has been negotiating with the club in good faith, and the parties have made good progress. However, there are some unresolved issues. As part of the negotiations, the parties agreed to order an engineering and acoustic report. These reports, which deal with, among other things, noise and odors, are hugely important to our clients' daily quality of life. Tonight, we are merely requesting the opportunity to receive and review those final reports. We have not received those as of the date hereof. In addition, this request for an adjournment to November will not delay the club's project, as far as we understand. There is no construction plans that have been submitted to the DOB, and no transportation committee meeting has been scheduled. Finally, it is disconcerting that the club is trying to jam through this application without full consideration of all the issues from the committee. We want to have good relations, and our client wants to have good relations and trust with our neighbor. And we believe the need to complete our review in order to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wool. Okay, next, I have no name, but I have a phone number, 1561 ending in 091.
Hi, I am.
Please state your name.
Hello, I am Pepe Van Hoel. I live in 377th Street. I've lived there for 40 years. I enjoy the area a great deal. I walk through there all the time, and I've known Robin for over 20 years, like Dixon has. I know his father very well. Everything that they both have done, father and son, have been immaculate, well run, and beautiful places. And safety is paramount to all the places that I've been in London that they have done. I think that they would be a great addition to the Upper East Side, and especially to our area. It will bring some life to that area in the evenings, and it will be controlled, and they will have security. And so everything that Robin does, he does well. I mean, this guy is a perfectionist. His father was a perfectionist. He's just as good a perfectionist. And everything is done to the highest quality and standards. So I very much enthusiastically recommend that the application be approved.
Thank you very much. Okay, next on my list, do I have a Betsy Gottbaum?
Hi, I'm Betsy Gottbaum, and I am former New York City public advocate. Been in New York City my entire life, which is quite a long time. And I've known Robin, and I can only say that what he has done with his clubs in London is short of extraordinary. Shepherd's Market really grew, and the whole community has really thrived as a result of Robin being there. And I just want to say that as a former public official, I feel that this is a wonderful thing for New York at a time when we really need it. And I believe Robin will be one of the best community people we have ever had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have J. David Enriquez?
Hi, thank you very much. J. David Enriquez. My wife and I are both members of Mr. Burley's Club, 5 Hartford Street, and we get to London frequently for work. So we take advantage of opportunities to dine at the club and entertain friends and clients in London. We've also been residents here in Community Board 8 for 20 plus years and have raised our 3 children and sent them to schools on the Upper East Side. And I just want to reiterate the support that the Street Life Committee has heard from other members of the public on this call, and say I fully support Mr. Burley's application, and I think his restaurant club would be a fantastic addition to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to Claude Wasserstein.
Hi, I just want to also add to the chorus of support for Robin. I've been on the Upper East Side for 30 years, and I'm on the board of my building on Fifth Avenue. And so I'm really a concerned Upper East Sider, and I love our neighborhood. And I think we're so lucky. We're so lucky that Robin wants to open in this neighborhood. I was worried he would go midtown or downtown, and I'm just grateful he wants to do something in our neighborhood where he's going to bring energy and vibrancy and more safety and more life. And I feel we're all in New York for these great opportunities and these great communities. And it's going to be a wonderful addition to this community. And I know he's going to do things with the highest quality. I hear about noise and odor, and I know from being a member of his club in London that certainly isn't an issue over there, and he's done everything to the utmost to ensure that everything is done so well. So I want to thank Community Board 8 for letting me speak, and I really think that we are just very lucky to have this opportunity and that we should seize it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, I have Jackie Martin.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? Because I'm on my earphones.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. I share Ms. Wasserstein's views that Robin and his club would be a wonderful addition to the Upper East Side. We've seen so many storefronts closed since the COVID pandemic, and this would be a wonderful renaissance for the neighborhood to have this type of establishment around. I live in Mayfair for quite a number of years, where Robin's Club was launched, before it was launched and after, and I could only tell you it improved the surrounding area. There was great community involvement from Mr. Burley, his staff, and it was just wonderful to see how Shepherd's Market grew and became much more trafficked, and revenues grew, which is, I think, a big part of why I'm supporting this endeavor. I think our community needs to have the funding of additional tax revenues in order to keep it as safe and as beautiful as it is for its residents. And knowing how 5 Hartford is in London, I can only imagine that Robin will take the utmost care and is trying to be very respectful of the neighbors, and to ensure that there is no difficulties with establishing the club. As I think it was Mr. Enriquez mentioned with rubbish, that the club has plenty of people dedicated to ensuring that it complies with the regulations. And even in London, there was no backlog of cars down the street where it happens. If there's any drop-offs or pickups, they happen pretty quickly, or the cars are instructed to keep on driving by the doorman. So I just want to reiterate my support for Mr. Burley's club, and I do hope it comes, because it would be a welcome addition to this wonderful neighborhood that I have loved for decades. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to go to Barry Schneider. And don't worry, Mr. Bookman, I plan to come back to you between the public comments and the committee comments. So.
Good evening, and thank you very much for recognizing. Congratulations to all the new members of the board. But more importantly, I was very impressed by the presentation made by the applicant and the neighbors, particularly the neighbors, because if you recall, the attorney for the opposition said, let's hear from the neighbors. Well, we did. The neighbors were overwhelmingly supportive of this application, as I was back in August of 2019. I hope the board will vote in that direction again. They voted 43 to 5 or something that time. Let's make it unanimous this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. Okay, Jackie Scheinfield.
Jackie, you're unmuted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm just so excited about giving the support that everyone is showing this evening for this project. When I first heard about it, we're tenants at 15 East, 69th. We were at 3 East at one point. we are New Yorkers, and we're both in the medical field. And I feel that this is one of those moments in time that we look down the street and we see the vibrancy that's been mentioned before, the safety, very big factor. As I come home from work late at night, I've noticed the neighborhood changing very, very much even before the pandemic. I look at the quality of life, and the club that's been described as going to be there is going to be an asset for sure. And I know that my husband and I really are so supportive and love all the energy that we're all spending on making this project a reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, last call for public hands before I go back to Mr. Bookman to address any of the items that were spoken to. In particular, I would encourage a comment on the engineering acoustic reports that were mentioned. Okay, seeing no other hands on the public at this time, Mr. Bookman, over to you before I go to my committee members.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to just briefly respond to what Milton Strom and his attorney said. I want to acknowledge Mr. Strom. He's been a meticulous advocate for his building, and we've developed, I think our teams have developed a good working relationship, one that involves respect. And so, you know, I just want to acknowledge that. I think with what you heard from Mr. Strom and to some extent from his counsel is that they haven't had every chance with their experts, which they hired, to dot every I and cross every T in terms of the reports that their experts have produced in response to reading our reports. But what I think is important to underscore is that there is no serious or really small, there's really no material gap at all between the approach to sound, noise, and odor mitigation that we have proposed, that's in the stipulations and that our experts have proposed, versus what their experts have done in reviewing our reports. Their consultants who they've hired have really observed no substantive gaps in how we're approaching these issues. And I understand the desire to want to, again, discuss every jot and tittle amongst themselves with their board, with their experts, and they can of course do that. And we are here to be a part of that process, and we're going to continue to make ourselves available and work with them in good faith to the extent that their experts who have already reviewed our reports do have anything substantial to address in terms of concerns, but we haven't seen that to date. And so, you know, I think the objection you're hearing is more of a process one than one of an actual substantive difference. As it relates to the stipulations are clear. The first bullet point says we're adopting all of the recommendations, including as it relates to the sound system. The second bullet point is very important under the noise section. It says no noise, music, voices, vibrations, or impacts emanating from the club shall be detectable beyond the premises. So we're stipulating to that. And their experts have not said that that's unachievable. I think, again, it's just they're looking for additional consultations with their experts, which they're free to have. Our discussions with the building have been positive. The attorney who's here representing the building tonight has not been part of those discussions. You know, we are clearly not jamming through anything. I think anyone who's been a reasonable observer of this process is quite aware that we've been very meticulous and detailed. We've put this meeting over twice, and so nothing is being jammed through here. And tonight is not, to Chair Salcedo's comment, tonight is not the end of the conversation with the neighbors. We will continue the dialogue with them. But we do think that we've accomplished the goals that you set out for us when voting to table this in terms of speaking with the neighbors and addressing their concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Bookman. Okay, Mr. Strom, one last opportunity for you before I go to my committee members.
Hello?
Yes.
This is Milton Strom. Did you call on me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I just have a brief thing. I agree with Max that the relations between the two sides is very positive, and we did accomplish quite a bit. We are still very concerned about the noise, vibration, and possible odors that would be coming from the kitchen area and mechanicals related. Now, the The engineers, we have two, they have two, have not really had a chance to speak with each other. There's been an email or two going back and forth, but I think we would all be remiss if we didn't finish the process and let the engineers speak with each other, which they plan to do quite quickly, and resolve the issues to at least our satisfaction. And because if it turns out there is a very serious issue there, it is not a way to start off what is meant to be a very high quality enterprise. The only other thing I have to say is that I neglected to mention that the president of the East 70th Street Block Association was unable to be here tonight, but that they agree that this matter should be put over until November. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now going to committee members. Judy, you are first.
Good evening. I'd like to put a resolution on the floor, and if it's seconded, I'd like to speak to it. My resolution is that we approve this submission tonight. Is there a second?
Madison. For Madison.
Okay. Firstly, I want to say we spent in 2019, Barry and I spent a lot of time when they were going to open on 60th Street, going over all the issues in the community that we thought needed taken care of, the same as they're doing today. And they were very good about rectifying all of those issues. However, for whatever reason, that never came about. They didn't open the restaurant at that location, or the club, excuse me. And now they are proposing this location on Madison Avenue. I would encourage all of my board members to support this resolution at this time. I think that both sides have done a lot of work together, and I think they will continue speaking to one another and working out any problems that should come up, because it benefits them to have a good working relationship once the club is opened. We have, I don't ever remember in the 30 years or more that I've been coming to these meetings ever hearing so much discussion between the community and a group that wanted to go in and obtain a liquor license. I think they've really done their homework. I think they'll continue to do their homework. And considering the length of time, even if we approve it, and if the board, full board approves it, then it takes many months, as we all know, for them actually to even get the liquor license. So I think delaying it any further at this time is not in the best interest of the applicant or of the community on Madison Avenue who's come out to testify, or of the community board. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Judy. Going to Michelle.
Thank you, Abraham. Yeah, this is clearly a very high-end and very prestigious operation with notable accommodation. I have no doubt that their effort to ensure the workings of this club will coincide with the desires and the quality of life of the community. I'm very, very pleased to hear of the collaboration that has taken place so far. I do have a feeling, just getting the pulse of the room, the virtual room, and the comments that are made, there have been no negative comments about the organization, but with the recognition that the community still has some concerns because they haven't been yet resolved. They may have been addressed, but not yet resolved. And also thinking that this resolution to approve the license will go through tonight, I would just like to suggest that in the whereas clauses, so that the community feels comfortable. And Mr. Bookman has already assured us that they are willing to continue dialogue and that they will not be disappearing and that they will talk to the community. I would just like to see that in some of the whereases, and with the assurance that if any new information does come up from the acoustician or any other expert that has been hired, if a report hasn't yet been committed, if there is something which needs addressing in either of those reports, that we have in the whereases a commitment for the applicant to help work it out and address it with the community. So Mr. Bookman has already stipulated to that. I take him at his word, but I think, and he's nodding now, but I think the community would just feel more comfortable to know that it's a stipulation that they will not be forgotten once this application is approved and goes forward. So in the whereases, whoever is writing them, I would hope that that can be included. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, and I'm just part of my interjection, but I do really value that suggestion. And actually what I was going to say is if Judy were open to a friendly amendment, I would want to make it included as a stipulation rather than just as a whereas, a stipulation whereby Mr. Bookman and his client, they agree that they will continue to work in good faith to resolve any of the open issues related to the engineering and acoustic that may come from either party's reports. And have that be an actual obligation rather than just kind of an acknowledgement.
Yeah, and the odors as well. I think that's a terrific suggestion. Thank you.
So Judy, if you're okay with that amendment.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Great, so thank you both. Next in line is Mrs. Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I approved this applicant in August of 2019, and I support the application this evening. I do want to thank Mr. Bookman and the applicant and the neighborhood association and working through most of the concerns. And I think that's very positive, but there's two questions I have. Mr. Wall had stated that there wouldn't be a problem in holding this over until November so that both sides could read the engineer's report. So if that is true, I don't understand why we would have to decide this evening. And my other question is, in August of 2019, there was a gentleman from the neighborhood, from the community, felt that this didn't benefit him, and he wanted to know what was the cost of the initiation fee and the yearly membership. And that question wasn't answered. So I'm asking out of curiosity, what is the initiation fee or the monthly or annual fees, please? So I want to see how this benefits the community, because I think the first speaker, Paul, had stated that this would be good for the whole community. So I would like to know, please.
I'm happy to address both questions if the chair would permit
Yes,
me.
please proceed, Mr. Bookman, you may address.
Thank you, and hello, Mrs. Brown. On the first question of why we can't delay this further, it's been well publicized that the State Liquor Authority's backlog of processing applications is significant and getting even worse. I could tell you from my professional experience that we have applications that were filed upwards of 9 months ago that have still not even been reviewed or acted upon by the Liquor Authority. So we have devoted 2 months to the discussions with the neighbors. That was also preceded by several months of earlier outreach that was done. And so we do feel that we have met the task that we were set with accomplishing with these very detailed stipulations. And we do feel that it's time we really are pressed to move forward given the Liquor Authority's significant backlog. I think that Michelle Birnbaum's suggestion, which was also adopted by Judy, is one that we support. So let me just say that on the record. I was nodding my head, but let me say on the record, we are stipulating, and we will stipulate, to continue working in good faith with the neighbors to address any additional concerns that their experts raise. Although their experts have, as I've said, reviewed our materials already, but we're not disappearing after tonight. So that's the answer to question number one, Mrs. Brown. As it relates to question number two, and I remember that individual as well from 2019. I'm not sure if I said this then, but I'll say it now, which is one of the benefits of a members only restaurant is additional accountability. Unlike, and we have early closing hours. It's in our submission, but on a number of elements of these very detailed stipulations come with an additional proviso that those elements are not just going to be part of the liquor license, but are going to be part of the membership handbook that members have to agree to and abide by in order to maintain their membership in the restaurant. And if there are members who are not following the guidelines that we have agreed to with the neighbors, we have the ability to enforce that by removing them from membership. And Robin Burley is very serious about that because he's taken this process and his credibility with the neighbors incredibly seriously. So there is a community benefit to this establishment because unlike if this was an open to the public establishment, you have an additional layer of assurance that these stipulations, which are the result of the requests of the neighboring building, are ones that are adhered to with greater certainty. In terms of the cost of the establishment, it's not been figured out yet how much it's going to cost. That's something that is still up for internal discussion. As I've said, we have a long wait for our liquor license ahead of us, and so they still have time to figure it out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bookman, for that. Mr. Chair, could I I support the application with the friendly amendment offered by Michelle and Judy. And so I guess I can't call the question, but I just think I can support this. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. One quick just follow up, Mr. Bookman. I know thank you and graciously agreed to the friendly amendment to incorporate the additional stipulation of the commitment to continue to work with the residents and take into account anything that might come out of the engineering reports on both sides, et cetera. One of the comments that was discussed was that how quickly it could happen. Just so I know for my head, is there any chance that conversation would be able to be had by the 19th full board meeting? Your kind of discussions with the respective experts? It's just my curiosity.
I certainly hope so. It's not something that's fully in our control, and that's because in part that there has been a piecemeal series of questions and requests for comment from their experts on our proposal. Again, not revealing any major issues, just requests for clarification about how we're doing things. So I hope so, but I am hesitant to have the full board's approval of the application hinge on that because it's not fully in my control.
Understood. It was just more a thought that I had that if the motion on the floor with the friendly amendment would go forward, I think everyone would sleep easier if the issues were to be able to be resolved by the 19th and both sides can come and say, hey, guess what? We did actually come together and we were able to resolve those. But again, that would be a nice to have, not a requirement that I'm imposing, just a suggestion for thought. Okay, so with that, I will go to Russell Squire, our esteemed chair of Community Board 8.
Thank you. So I just, in looking at the stipulations, I had a question, which is about, there's one stipulation that says that there's not going to be any dancing. And I wasn't sure. I mean, if everyone agrees to that and everyone's fine with it, then, I don't want to sort of disturb it, but it just sort of seemed odd to me. It seems to me that the concern regarding dancing would be about noise, but there's a lot of other stipulations that specifically address noise. And so I guess my question is the dancing stipulation just another sort of belt and suspenders thing related to noise, or is it something else more specific to dancing? Because it just seems very, very draconian to say no dancing.
Neither, Mr. Chair. That actually, it's been our position since before we learned of the opposition from these neighbors, going back to our initial 30-day notice to you that there'd be no dancing here. And that's the reason for that is to emphasize that this is not an event space and that the character of this establishment is one of a restaurant. So we've incorporated that stipulation into these full stipulations basically by bringing it forward. But that's always been our position.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, look, I commend you guys for the amount of outreach that you've done and all of your engagement, with the residents. And I would just say, I think this is probably the most comprehensive list of stipulations I've ever seen come before this committee, certainly in the time that I have served on it. So, I'm planning to support this, but I just want to say, thanks for all the outreach that you've done. And you do, as Abraham mentioned, you have another week to potentially finalize whatever else could be finalized, which could be incorporated into a final board resolution. But nice to have, as Abraham said.
Understood.
Great. Thank you, Russell. We'll go to Jane.
I just wondered, I appreciate Michelle amendments to Judy's resolution. Of course, it is a concern to me that everything has not been totally resolved by the time of our vote tonight. But I'm wondering how Mr. Strom feels about the resolution with the amendments. If he could speak to that.
Well, he conveniently has his hand up, so let's hear from Mr. Strom.
Well, if the board is going to vote to move ahead without laying it over for a month, I guess that's a decent fallback position. We would much prefer to handle this on a normal basis and take the 3 weeks and have it laid over until November. I believe the next meeting would only be 3 weeks from now because this one was late. So we'd prefer that, but as a second choice, not that we thought about a second choice, I suppose that's better than nothing. And just let me add on the dancing issue. It's my understanding that there will be dancing at private parties sponsored by members. There will be no private parties sponsored by non-members, but there will be dancing at member-sponsored parties, I believe.
That was something. I'm sorry. I know. Yeah, no, I'm not intending to crosstalk. It's just to clarify that, and because there was some late in the day back and forth between us and Phyllis Weisberg, Mr. Strom's counsel. In Phyllis's most recent edits, she had put in a provision that tracks what Mr. Strom just said. We took it out when we submitted our final stipulations for the reasons that I've already explained to Chair Squire, which is that we've never had dancing as part of our liquor license application. It's not going to be, and so it's just a no dancing stipulation.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, and thank you, Mr. Strom. Jane, back to you.
Well, I think if Mr. Strom is in favor, basically because it's the best fallback we can get, that I would vote to support the application. I do feel that it's unfortunate that not everything has been signed, sealed, and delivered, but I recognize that this type of an establishment, it kind of reminds me of Doubles, although Doubles does have dancing, will bring a certain cachet to that area on Madison. And it has certainly been an impressive group of people who have shown up to testify. When you look at Dixon Boardman, Stephen Schwarzman, it's very unusual that a liquor license application gets those types of people testifying. So it's been a fascinating event. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. We'll go to my esteemed colleague, Marco Tamayo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since I think I would like to call the question since everything has been working in good faith. Thank you.
Great.
I think,
Thank you very much.
I think Russell the second.
Yeah, I see a thumbs up and second for Madison and Michelle Birnbaum. So I'm going to go and call a question. If anyone's opposed to calling a question, please give an indication. Otherwise, we will go with the vote. We'll go with the vote. All right, so seeing no one opposed to calling a question, I will now go to the roll. And so this is a motion to approve the application with the long list of stipulations that has been circulated and mutually predominantly agreed between the parties, and the additional stipulation that we added this evening, which is to say that the two parties will commit, or more, the applicant will commit to continue to work with the residents to ensure that any of the concerns that remain outstanding, in particular relating to the engineering, acoustic, and odor that may or may not emanate from the property, will continue to be discussed and resolved, and the results of any of the findings of their respective experts will be taken into account to alleviate those concerns. So that is the stipulation, the additional stipulation. So with that, if anyone is voting no, not voting for cause, or abstaining, please raise your hand. Otherwise, you will go down as approving this resolution. Okay. Last time, if anyone's voting no, not voting for cause, or abstaining, please give me an indication. Okay, I see no hands. Therefore, this will go as an approval with the stipulations. Again, I will encourage the parties to, if possible, try to reach agreement on their outstanding open items by the 19th. I think that will help put a nice bow to finalize this matter. So I would encourage you to encourage your experts to speak as quickly as possible on these items. I think that way everyone can maybe rest a little easier if we have confirmation from both sides that any outstanding items have been resolved by the full board meeting on the 19th. So with that, I will say thank you to everyone. I know you put in a lot of time and effort, so I applaud all of you, Mr. Bookman and your client, Mr. Strom, and all of the other residents that have been involved in this. So I think this is a positive result. And again, so thank you very much. And this will go as a approval recommendation to the full board. And just as a reminder, this will be voted on at the full board. So there may or may not be further discussion there. So I invite and encourage all parties to attend, especially if you have good news that you've resolved your issues. All right.
Abraham, before anybody leaves,
Yes.
those in attendance voting right now: Abraham, Addison, Bill Angelos, Evan, Jane, Judy, Casey, Marco, Michelle, Mrs. Brown, Robin, Russell, and Valerie. Did I miss anyone? It's everyone that I've seen, and I don't see any hands going up, so I think that's everyone.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Okay, great. So that's, did we lose someone? Is that 13 by your count, Will?
While I gave the image that I was counting on my fingers, no, I was not actually counting. That's my bad. There are 12 who are still here. So,
okay, I think I have
yes,
it.
12 plus Jane, I believe.
Yeah.
Because Jane left.
Okay, great. Okay, so now moving the agenda along, do I have the applicant and or the representative for item 1B, that's UME NY Inc., 1554 First Avenue?
If you are here to represent item 1B, please raise your virtual hand or chat me so that I know you're here. I have the representative name is Joseph Yao. There he is.
There he is.
Sorry, Joseph. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening to the Board of Community Aid. My name is Joseph Yao, the attorney for UMI New York, Inc.
Hi, welcome. Tell us a little bit about your application.
So this is an application for a beer, wine, and cider. This is a small restaurant, a Japanese restaurant, basically serving sushi and ramen. It's located at 1154 First Avenue. The middle store, the building has 3 commercial stores, so it will be essentially squeezed in the middle between the 2. The hours of operation will be from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. Mondays through Sunday, so 7 days a week. It will seat a maximum of 30 people across 13 tables. There will be no outdoor seating.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. For the benefit of the call and the recording, food ratio 80% food, 20% drink. Again, no outdoor space. So first, I will inquire if there's any members of the public. I see Barry. Barry.
Good evening. Here I am again. Very quickly, that restaurant directly across the street from where I live. That space has been vacant for an incredibly long period of time, as we are all aware. We indeed had a meal from them. Very, very well done. Nice people. They take care of their space. The sidewalk is clean in front of their store. I strongly advise support of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. I will go to Marco.
Yeah, I would like to put a motion to approve this application. If anybody can second, and then I can speak.
Yes, you have a second.
Okay. I think this is extremely very small, and the only thing asking for beer and wine. So basically, and the hours of operation is completely a restaurant. And this is, I think, we have to approve right away. Thank you.
Great, Marco. Thank you. I agree. Russell?
Call the question.
Wonderful. I see a thumbs up for that. Great. If anyone doesn't approve calling a question, give me a sign. Otherwise, we will go to the roll. Seeing no hands, seeing no opposition to calling the question here, I will take the tally. Okay, so there's a motion to approve as presented. If anyone's voting no, not voting or abstaining, do let me know. Otherwise, this will go as an approval. Giving it another few seconds as I count. I have Addison, Bill, Evan, Judy, Casey, Marco, Mrs. Brown, Robin, Russell, Valerie, and myself. Okay, seeing no opposition, this will go as a motion to approve. Joseph, thank you very much for presenting. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone.
Great, have a good night. Okay, moving along to
really quickly before you move on, Mrs.
Yes.
Brown, you raised your hand. Were you voting no or abstaining?
No, I'm supporting the application. All I'm asking the chair is to please ask the applicants to state if they're ADA compliant and if they've had any violations, and if so, were they cured? Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 1C. Do I have the representative for VLLC 1825 2nd Avenue?
Good evening, Abraham, and everyone else. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good.
Haven't seen you in a minute. Good to see you.
Nice to see you all again.
Likewise.
Some of you. Can't see faces. Julian?
Go ahead.
You guys know Julian Medina. I think he's got a number of places in your neighborhood. He's doing another Mexican restaurant, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m., 7 days a week. Taking over, what was it called before, guys?
Painted Lady.
Painted Lady?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you guys know Julian, you know what he does. So it's really not a surprise here. If you have any questions, though, I'll be happy to answer them.
Sure. The only questions for Mrs. Brown, ADA compliance, yes, no, and then any violations, Yes, no, and then any outdoor space?
There's outdoor space, but based on from COVID, not an additional space that we're building up.
Okay, and no, so there's no like rear yard space, correct?
No.
Okay, great, thank you. ADA compliance?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Look at plans.
And any violations or complaints thus far?
No.
Well, we're not operating.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I don't know if they had violations before.
No, that's great. Ascribable to yourselves. Okay, great. So any members of the public on this item? Also, just for the recording, 70-30 food drink ratio. I have Andrew Fine, member of the public.
Hi, folks. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just want to speak in support of this application, the prior application, and the application before that, where I don't think dancing really makes a difference at this point. Let the people dance and let the people prance and enjoy their liquor licenses. Thank you, and let's encourage business.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Fine. Appreciate that. Okay, then I will go to Addison.
And I would like to make a motion to approve this application as presented.
Okay, good. And you have a second from Marco. And Russell?
Call the question.
Wonderful. Okay, does anyone, so we have the seconds to call the question. If anyone opposes calling the question, give me a sign. Otherwise, we will go to the count. Okay, so this is a motion to approve as presented. If anyone is voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, give me a sign. Otherwise, this will go as a motion to approve. Again, I have Addison, Bill, Evan, Judy, Casey, Marco, Mrs. Brown, Robin, Russell, and Valerie on this one. Great. So this is going to go as an approval. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. All right. Do I have the next item? This would be 1D, Lamar NYC DBA Dulce Vida Bistro. Hi. Can we unmute Teams? There we go.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Community Board 8, for having us this evening to present this application on behalf of my clients. My name is Sandra Olaya from Team CL Group. I have with us this evening Ms. Maria Marquez-Haas. This application will go under her name, as well as her husband's name, Mr. Lawrence Haas. They have been residents of the Upper East Side for 30 years now. A little background behind Dulce Vida Latin Bistro is that it was originally located at 1219 Lexington Avenue. It originated in 2010 till September of 2021. Under the same corporation, they did establish a liquor license that was in August of 2017. Then it was then in October of 2021 that they shifted their restaurant into an Italian cuisine restaurant that is currently Elosteria, and it's currently operating right now. Then in January 2022, they revived Dulce Vida, which is now located at 309 East 33rd Street. They are looking to apply for a wine, beer, and cider license. I'm excited to represent these clients. They're Colombian, and so am I. So I'm excited to bring some diversity of Latin American foods into the community. They are the only Colombian restaurants in the Upper East Side. They are serving dishes ranging from beef, chicken, and seafood, zesty and very flavorful dishes. They don't have outdoor seating under the previous DCA licensing. It is under the open restaurant program right now. Current hours of operation that they are looking to request would be Monday through Thursday, 12 p.m. to 10 p.m., Fridays from 12 to 11 p.m., Saturdays, they are looking to serve a breakfast lunch style menu from 10:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. and Sunday from 10:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. It is a fairly small restaurant. It's about 200 square feet, 10 tables, 22 chairs. Yeah, and
Great.
that's all for my presentation.
Thank you very much. Just some of the typical follow-up questions. ADA compliant? Yes?
No, it's not.
Not ADA compliant. Okay. And you know why that is?
It's such a tight, it's like a railroad restaurant. I don't see yeah, it's a fairly small premise, and I feel that, I mean, as much as I would want the premise to be ADA, it would just completely take away most of the seating at this premise.
Okay. Thank you very
Unfortunately, they do have, though, as far as the front door, it is ADA, of course, for someone, and it does have like I'm trying to remember, Maria, is there a little ramp in the entrance, like a small, if there's a wheelchair to come in? I'm trying to, let me look at the pictures that I submitted.
I'm sorry, is there somebody else we should unmute?
I'm sorry, yes, the Maria Marquez has. She is under,
it's under owner.
Okay, thanks. I
Yes.
see her waving.
Thank you. Hi, Maria.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys remember, this restaurant was previously a very famous Japanese restaurant. It was there, I believe, for over 10 years. And we have a ramp.
Okay, you have a
We
ramp.
have a ramp, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Very helpful. And then this is a small space, so you don't have any rear yard space, right?
No.
No rear yard space.
I
correct.
wish.
And to date, any no complaints or
No adverse history, no complaints. They both of these applicants are licensed at the other premise,
Yep.
and it's been it's a license that has been there since 2010, and there is no adverse history at this location, neither with the local community or the state liquor authority.
Thank you very much. Okay, do I have any members of the public on this application? If not, I will go to I have Mr. Fine as a member of the public.
Approve.
Great, thank you very much. Mrs. Brown, your turn.
Thank you. My concerns are ADA compliance. I understand the restaurant is approximately 200 feet.
Square feet, correct.
Square feet, yes. Is there a lavatory?
I'm sorry, can you?
Is there
a lavatory?
A bathroom. Yes, it does have
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, it does have a bathroom for the public.
All right, is the lavatory ADA compliant?
So the way this restaurant is set up, it's not.
And then if it's not ADA compliant, Marco, do you know what the code is on that in terms of the laboratory facilities and it being ADA compliant? Could someone?
I only have 9 tables. So what I understand is under 20 tables, I don't have to have a bathroom, I think. Is that what I've been told?
Chair Salito, could you bring Marco in regarding the codes on that, please?
Yes,
I'd like to have his input.
we can invite Marco. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, the regulation is very simple. Once you open a restaurant, you have to file drawings in the Department of Buildings. The Department of Buildings will be charged to review all your situation. And if you have serious problems, the Department of Buildings, they figured out how to resolve your issues. So therefore, in this case, you have to have a ramp that is compliance. You have to have a bathroom, even that the bathroom is not for the public, but you have to have, and the bathroom has to be handicap accessible, regardless if you allow the public use or not.
Mr. Tamayo, with all due respect, I mean, as much as the restaurants, should have ADA compliance. From my understanding, and I'm not an architect by all means, but it's the ADA compliance is really based on certain numbers of chairs and tables at the location, and also it's certain businesses that must be compliant with the ADA regulations. There's thousands of restaurants within New York City that are not ADA compliant, and it's not because you don't want to have them for disability patrons, but it's just it would completely change the structure of a restaurant. I mean, this is about 200 square feet. I do know there is a ramp in the entrance for if wheelchair access. And of course, Maria is more than welcoming and accommodating if a patron with a disability comes through the restaurant. But yeah, that's my say on this.
What I'm going to say is next. I'm not the expert to make a decision that you are in your place. Even though I'm a licensed architect, I'm not the expert to say that. This is what I said. You have to file the drawings in the Department of Buildings. The Department of Buildings, they will help you or not. But they are their decision. They are the people that interpret the zoning, the building codes, the handicap accessible, and they let you know. That is the only thing I'm saying. And that is, I strongly recommend that you should start from there, and then you can be easier your job. In the future, let me explain you something that you should know. There was a case on the Upper West Side that an attorney found out that many restaurants on the Upper West Side, they didn't have a small ramp or one step. What this attorney did? He put together like a 20 or 40 restaurants. So
yeah, that became a common practice.
Okay, now you know that. So
I totally know that.
I don't like, personally myself, what I try to do right here is to advise you properly, guide you properly, follow the regulations, and move forward. Because we strongly support business. It's business that help everybody. And we don't want that you should be caught in this part. Liable in this country, this situation is very bad for business. If you follow the regulations, you can do very successful. That's no problem at all. So, but the building department will be in charge to do that, no us. We don't enforce anything. The only thing is we ask. And if the Department of Building say yes, well, we have to accept.
Okay, I will follow up on that, and I will make sure. Thank you.
Mrs. Brown, any follow-up?
Yes, I would recommend that we lay this over until they come back with a report from DOE, from the Department of Buildings with their findings regarding ADA compliance, because I don't think it's fair to someone with disabilities that they cannot use the laboratory if it's not handicap accessible. And I think in order for us to support this applicant, we need to have all of the information and that it falls under the ADA laws. Thank you.
It's not that it's not accessible. I do have a ramp and anybody can go to the bathroom. I was just pointing out that what I was told that I don't have to have a bathroom if I have under 20 seats. My restaurant is mostly takeout. We are trying to come back. I reopened because people were calling me when I switched to another concept. And put money there. I'm trying to make it there in a very hard environment, as we all are going through. I put all my savings there, and I do need a little extra help with, as we all know, the only way a restaurant survives is with the wine and beer. It's the only place where you make money. Right now, everything went up so much, and it's so much that I can charge for an empanada without people throwing it in my face. I am really, truly trying to survive here. I'm not saying that a handicapped person is not going to be able to go to the bathroom. I do have a bathroom, and I do have a ramp. And the previous restaurant was there for over 10 years, same structure, same situation, same tables. I just saw pictures of the restaurant, and they had a liquor license or a wine and beer license. So I think what
we're not here to give guidance on the regulations. I think what we're saying here is that it is incumbent upon you to ensure that you're complying with the ADA regulations as they are presented. If you're currently not fully apprised of what those are, as Marco suggested, you need to work with DOB to make sure that you're compliant, because ultimately, if you're not compliant, then DOB and such and SLA will not actually grant the license. So make sure that you have, again, it's incumbent on yourselves. We're not here to tell you what they are, but it is something that is important to us. So we want to make sure that you are looking into that to make sure that you are compliant on that.
May I speak, Mr. Sassolino? So just a couple of things that have recently happened with the State Liquor Authority is one of the things that got adopted with the State Liquor Authority as an advisory is that actually, I don't specifically remember the month of this year, but the SLA started waiving the certificate of occupancy showing whether you're a legal eating and drinking establishment as well as ADA compliant was waived for the initial 2 years of applications. And as of September of 2022, the SLA also put into advisory that they are no longer requiring these applications to be submitted with certificates of occupancies. And I understand that she would be susceptible to either a violation from the Department of Building if she's not ADA compliant, or if an attorney comes around that, you know, with these new practices of, you know, bringing in a handicapped person and then using them as fish bait to, you know, have a lawsuit against Ms. Marquez. But again, all these things are happening within the State Liquor Authority, these changes to the application, because the Department of Building is also extremely delayed. So if we were to put Ms. Marquez, you know, in the process of dealing with the ADA compliant bathroom, and that's going to take her forever, plus the application process of the State Liquor Authority, which I have applications that are at 8-month mark and are still in process. She won't have a license till another 2 years. I mean, if you were like,
I'll be closing before then. I can't
survive. Understood. I think this is I think it's a situation where less is more. I think, again, I'm not debating the backlog. I'm just saying, all we're saying is that we want to reiterate the importance of making sure that every establishment is ADA compliant, and that's the only commitment that we're seeking. That's so. Thank you.
Put that. Okay. Thank you.
You could put that as a stipulation.
I would put that as a stipulation, so we can move forward with the application, that she starts her process, but delaying an application process of the State Liquor Authority where there's no longer a requirement with the application. It's a little bit of a disservice to a local resident that's been there for 30 years.
I would accept the stipulation.
Okay, thank you.
Madison.
Sorry about that. So yeah, I don't know if Mr. Chair, you put a resolution on the table, but if you haven't, then I'll put one to approve this application with the stipulation. If seconded, I want to just briefly mention one thing.
Okay.
Okay. yeah, I really appreciate the commitment to the neighborhood, and I think we ought to support the businesses with regards to the ADA issue that we have here. I think that that's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's out of the scope of our committee. I think what we're here for today is just to say, do they get a liquor license? And I think based on what we've heard, there's no issues with serving liquor at this premise. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's my perspective.
Thank you, Edison. Yeah, the scope is to determine whether the appropriateness of the liquor license. However, encompassed within that is we want to make sure that applicants are complying with the laws that are applicable to them, and we would not grant an application to any applicant to whom we know is in violation of laws, because we wouldn't want to set that precedent. So that's why we wanted to ask the question. So thank you for that. Marco, I see your hand is up again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think your clarification was great. Addison, yes, we had to be also they had to be in compliance with the law. I would like to make, I don't know if it's possible, a friendly amendment. Also, it has to be filed in the Department of Building, this application. Then everything will be set. Are you agreed that you're going to file this application in the Department of Building? This alteration, whatever you do?
Miss Marquez is very by the book. You know, she dots her I's and crosses her T's. She's been there. She's been there for 30 years. She's not looking, you know, she's not, you know, she's been around the block for many years, and she's looking to run a, you know, she's a responsible tenant to the community. And
so if she's willing to do this stipulation, I will support this application. Thank you.
And I think because this is, yes, I think, you know, thank you for your and Marco's comments and sort of yes, we need to be within the law. And I think that this extra step in order to get this approved will help us make sure that we're in accordance with the law.
Thank you very much to you both. Judy.
Call the question.
Okay, I see a second to that. So the question has now been called. Is anyone opposed calling the question? If so, please give me an indication. Seeing none, in that case, we will go to the vote. So for the record, again, this is a motion to approve with the stipulations that this establishment will be ADA compliant in accordance with the laws as they are at the time, as well as with Marco's stipulation that this will also be filed with the Department of Buildings. So if anyone's voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, please give me an indication. Otherwise, you will be recorded as a yes vote. And again, for the tally, I have Madison, Bill, Evan, Judy, Casey, Marco, Mrs. Brown, and Robin, and Russell. Okay, at the moment, I see no no's, abstentions. We're not voting for cause, so that will go as an approval with the stipulations. Thank you very much, and continued good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night. Okay, going to item 1E. This is Beluga Whale Sushi Inc. Do we have the applicant for Beluga?
I believe that is James Wang. I saw a Wang family. So if that is in fact James, go ahead and unmute. Or if you're a representative of this application, please give us a raise hand or something to indicate that you were the one speaking on application 1E, Beluga Whale Sushi. Just follow the prompt to unmute. I'm not seeing any hands up or anything, so we may need
anyone either. So let's go on to the next application and we'll revisit Beluga in a moment. Do I have the applicant for item 1F? This is for Myconian House LLC, 25 East 83rd. Yes, Mr. Callahan, how are you?
Go ahead and unmute.
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Nice to see you again.
I also have the owner with me. She should be on a cell phone.
Okay. See if we can find her.
I
Would be
believe it's
Laura?
Alina, and
Yeah, Alina, yes, I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Please proceed.
So my name is Robert Callahan from Michael Kelly Inc. With me are Alina and Gregory. Alina is the owner of the establishment. This is going to be an on-premise liquor license application for Myconian House LLC, doing business as Myconian House. We're located at 25 East 83rd Street between Madison and Fifth Avenues. We're going to occupy the space that was formerly Giovanni. We'll be a full-service restaurant featuring Greek cuisine. We'll have 19 tables with 48 seats and a bar that will seat 8 for a total of 56 total seats. Our hours will be 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week. We'll provide light pre-recorded background music through an iPod or an iPad or something like that. So Elena is, like I said, is the owner and would really like to bring a nice restaurant to this space where the customers can have a great experience. And although she doesn't have much experience in the industry, she's brought in Gregory Politis, who does have experience. He was a co-owner at Corrali at 1662 3rd Avenue, and also Yefke Restaurant on York between 78th and 79th Street. So he has the experience, so he'll run the day-to-day stuff, and we should have a pretty good restaurant here. He'll bring his experience and expertise to make this a successful venture. So if you have any questions for us, we'd be glad to answer them.
Just some of the overarching questions. ADA compliance.
Now, we believe the space at Giovanni's was ADA compliant, but anything that's not, we will take care of before we open the doors.
Okay, good to hear. There's no rear space or yard for this?
No.
Good. And then, well, you haven't opened yet, so you wouldn't have any existing violations or complaints. No. So with that, first, members of the public, I'm seeing a Jamie, apologies for the misstatement of the name if I say it wrong, Reich?
Yes, that's right.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm a resident of 25 East 83rd Street, have been there since 1991, so we're moving into 30 years. We did experience Giovanni's restaurant. I don't believe it's ADA compliant. There are steps up to the front door. I think a ramp would need to be built. We would very much welcome a restaurant in the building. What I would request is that the ventilation system be resolved. We had restaurant smells throughout the building, throughout his occupancy. You would open the front door of the building and smells would go through the lobby and up through the elevator shafts. Our fresh air intakes on our apartment at 4E would regularly have the aromas of the restaurant coming in and ventilated throughout our apartment, as well as the smells going through the windows, the seals on the windows. So it was a problem that never really got resolved. In addition, the ventilation equipment is in the alleyway beneath our bedroom window. And so we would regularly hear it groaning on until after 10 o'clock at night when it would be turned off. In addition, the trash removal schedule, we would regularly hear the sounds of the trash. So I just learned of this meeting this morning. I received a text with the photograph from the super of the building. And so I'm attending the meeting today. And I know that many of the residents in the building are not aware of this meeting. I don't know how many weeks it's been posted, but it would be great if we all could have an opportunity to have a conversation with the potential new restaurant proprietors in order to address some of these questions and resolve them. And I thank you very much for your attention and consideration.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you bringing those items to our attention. Mr. Callahan, would you like to comment on that, or shall we go to the other members of the public and then take them?
Yeah, you can go to the other members first.
Great. Mr. Fine.
Thanks again. It seems as if the resident has some legitimate concerns and those concerns should probably be addressed, and an opportunity given to the residents of the building to further question the application. In general, though, of course, I always approve of commerce. So I hope they can work it out, but I think their concerns should certainly be addressed. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Callahan, back to you.
Okay, so like I said, with the ADA compliance, you know, that is something that we were going to look at and take care of. We were not aware of any complaints with the prior restaurant. We weren't involved with the space, but we'd be willing to. Well, I mean, we're going to have professionals come in, you know, with the exhaust system. You know, we don't know if it's old equipment and it has to be replaced, or if there's any leaks or anything, you know, in exhaust vents that need to be sealed. So that's all going to be looked at before the the restaurant opens its doors. And as far as the garbage, it's going to be taken by a professional carting company, so we could make arrangements for them to pick it up at a particular place, which is not maybe in front of the building entrance or near the building entrance.
Okay. Would I guess one of two courses. One, would you be willing to stipulate that you will have a dialogue with the residents to further look into those ventilation concerns, and as you enter the space to try to resolve those, if that's agreeable to yourselves?
Elena, we're willing to talk with the people in the building to try and get a resolution and make sure that no smells or noises are getting into their apartments. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Seeing no other members of the public, I will go to Mrs. Brown first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did you state in the stipulation that you would include that the establishment must be ADA compliant, including the ramp and the lavatory? I didn't hear that part.
I did not, but I am happy to add that if Mr.
Would you please, that's critical. That these facilities that are accommodating the public needs to be ADA compliant. That is the law. Thank you. And if with those stipulations, I can support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Mr. Callahan, does that sound right to you? I mean, you've already said that you would comply with the law, so if we just add that as a stipulation, you're agreeable to that for whatever motion comes up?
Yes, we're going to comply with all laws.
Great. Okay, so just to clarify before I go to Marco, preemptively offered two stipulations, although we don't have a motion on the floor yet. So just letting that opportunity be known.
Mr. Chair, did you give the ratio of food and beverage?
I'm sorry, it's 85 to 15. 85 food, 15 alcohol.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan.
Great. Marco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to put a motion and then to speak. The motion is to approve with the stipulations if the applicant is in agreement. Anybody can second?
You have several seconds.
Okay. So one of the stipulations that I would like to add, I think that covers everything, is you have to file an application in the Department of Buildings, because the Department of Buildings, they catch you everything. The ADA compliance, noise, they compare everything. And I think you have to follow the first application, I think is an example for all the community board. That's what we're looking for, that the applicant do the right thing, work with the community, do the legal procedure. And that's basically what I'm looking for in all this application. Are you willing to do that, Mr. Callahan and Mrs. Alina?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Oh, thank you. And with that, I think I will support the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. So we have Mrs. Brown. Do you have a new item? Oh, no, she put her hand up. Judy.
Call the question.
Great, and you have a second on that. Okay, so we have the question called. If anyone opposes calling the question, give me an indicator. Seeing none, then I will go to the vote. So reminder, this is a motion to approve with the stipulation of the ADA compliance of the commitment to work with the residents to address the ventilation and garbage concerns and the Marcos filing with the DOB. If you're voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, please give me an indicator. Otherwise, you will go down as a yes. Last call. Seeing none. Okay, this will go as a motion to approve, 10-0. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Okay, so I'm gonna try to circle back. Do we have the representative for Beluga Whale Sushi? Beluga Whale Sushi?
So James, just unmute. I see you there.
Okay, there you go.
You're unmuted. Go ahead and speak.
Hello?
Yes, hi, how are you?
How are you?
Very good. Tell us about your application.
Yes, yeah, there will be the sushi place and the hour will be 11 to 12 a.m. 7 days a week. Background music.
Yep. Okay, good. So I'm seeing from the application, this is for wine, beer, cider, food drink ratio 95 food, 5% drink, so small portion. You have no outdoor rear space, correct?
你用外面吗？不用吧？外边你用吗？
什么玩意？
外面有没有摆椅子摆什么的？
有那个有搭在外面。
Yeah, they use the outside space. Yes, yeah.
So outside in the front or outside in the back?
你在前面是吗？在你餐馆前面？
就是餐馆前面有一点点。
In the front, yes.
In the front. Okay, so that's through the Open Streets program. Okay, so there's no rear yard, which is what I was, okay. And you will the location will be ADA compliant. You'll comply with all laws regarding accessibility, etc.
I don't think they have complaints. Yeah.
Okay, but just make sure you have to make sure that the establishment is complying with all laws, including Americans with Disabilities Act. Okay.
Yeah, that one will definitely yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And you haven't opened yet, right?
They opened. Yes,
they opened. Any complaints yet?
No, any complaint. No.
All right, thank you very much. Then with that, I will go to any members of the public that want to opine. Okay, Mr. Fine.
I opine yes.
Wonderful, thank you very much. I appreciate your input. Then I will go to Russell.
Motion to approve.
Okay, you have a second on that. And then Addison.
Call the question.
Wonderful, and you have a second on that. So if anyone's opposed to calling the question, give me an indicator. Otherwise, we're going to go to the vote, and this is going to go down to as a motion to approve. So if anyone's voting no, not voting for cause, or abstaining, do give me a sign. Otherwise, I will have you down as a yes. One last chance. 3, 2, 1. Seeing none. Okay, this is a motion to approve. Thank you very much, and good luck to you.
Good night. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, moving right along. And category 2, these are change applications. Do I have an applicant or representative for Shake Shack? This is a corporate change. Shake Shack representative?
I will let Russell speak to this probably because he's going to say the same thing I would, but we did receive correspondence from Shake Shack.
Okay.
Go ahead,
So
Russell.
they told us that they weren't going to send anybody, and we asked them to send someone, and they refused. And this is a situation where, I think in light of that refusal, even though this is a corporate change, which we typically approve, I think we should disapprove it, and I think we should spell out why we're doing that in detail to the SLA. And the reason and so I should add, the reason that they gave for not coming is they said, we're a large chain. We can't be bothered essentially to come to every community board meeting that has a Shake Shack in it to discuss this. So effectively what their argument is that they're too big to come before us. And of course we have corporate changes come to us from small businesses. And I certainly think that somebody who's running a small business, it's much more of an imposition for that person to come before us. And they do it every time without complaint, even though it's a fairly straightforward thing for us to do. So the idea that we would make an exception for Shake Shack because they're large, I think is completely wrong, and wrong of them to expect us to do that, and wrong of them to have said that in the way that they did. And so I would suggest that we, I guess I started speaking, so I'll ask somebody else to make a motion to disapprove this. But with the motion, I think we should include the correspondence that we had. We have a pretty clear record of this to make it clear to the SLA why we're doing what we're doing.
I agree, and that makes total sense. And thank you for providing that context. Judy.
I'll make the motion to disapprove, and if it's seconded, I would like to ask a question.
You are seconded.
Okay. Russell, can you tell us why? What the change is? Do we have any idea?
It's a corporate change. I don't remember what does
that
if they
mean?
told us
Is
what
that
the nature
change of
is.
owners, or what does that mean?
Yeah, usually it means a change of owner. So, very often, just to give examples of other kinds of corporate changes that we see, they've sold the business to somebody else, or they're bringing on a new partner, or, they're buying out one of their partners. It's stuff along those lines that happens. I don't know what happened to Shake Shack in terms of whether they moved it to a different entity or what, and Will can tell me if they gave us information, but I frankly don't know. Of course, those are the kinds of questions that are simple for an applicant to answer when they come to us. And obviously, we don't have anybody here tonight.
Yeah,
they didn't file anything with us, so.
Okay, thank you very much for answering.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you well.
Okay. All right. So in their cover letter that was attached to their 30-day notice, they had a list of 5 current principals: Randall Garuti, Daniel Meyer, Shake Shack Enterprises LLC, Tara Comonti, and Zachary Koff, and they were proposing to change to 5 new principals, 4 of them being the same, with the exception of leaving off Tara and replacing her with Catherine Forgretti.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I'm bad with names.
No, but we have the gist, yeah.
And you can find the list of those names if you're on our website. You click on the agenda and you open up the 30-day notice that's underneath this item on the agenda.
Great. Okay, so we have the motion from Judy that's been seconded. Mrs. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly support Chair Squire's motion. I think it's important that we send messages to corporations, large or small, that they must respect the community board and our work. And for them to be dismissive in this regard really creates a concern for me. But I think by our not approving your application should send a message loudly and clearly. Thank you.
So may I take this as you calling the question?
Call the question, please.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay. All in favor of calling the question? I'll do it in the reverse. If anyone's opposed to calling the question, give me an indicator. Otherwise, we will go to the vote on this item. Okay. Then with that, I will go to the vote, which is the motion to disapprove the application for the reasons indicated in the discussion. So if anyone's voting, No, not voting for cause or abstaining. Gave me an indication. Sorry, Mr. Fine, we had already started kind of the committee discussion, so I am happy to come back to you on the next item. Okay, so seeing no abstentions, not voting for cause or no's, then this will go down as a unanimous disapproval. Okay, then moving on to item 2B. Do I have the representative for Modi Mahal?
Go ahead, Anthony.
Right. Good evening, everybody. Great to be here tonight. Chairman Salcedo, other committee members, thanks for your important work in this area to protect residents in the area. I am here for Tripti Inc. It's an Indian restaurant that is located at 1149 First Avenue, between 62nd and 63rd. It's been there for 10 years under the current ownership. We're here tonight for two reasons. One, to upgrade from beer and wine to full liquor. And we're also here for a corporate change application as a new owner coming in. We're joined by Zori. She is the executive assistant of the business and the enterprises. The current owner is selling all the interest in the business, hence we have a corporate change before you. The new owner is a gentleman by the name of Gaurav Anand. He has extensive experience in the industry. He has two other restaurants in Manhattan. He also had a restaurant that he sold. One was in CB4, CB7, and CB5, I believe. His active license since 2014, Bhati Indian Grill at 100 Lexington, that's CB5. Awad is also another establishment at 2588 Broadway, CB7, both good operating records. He also owned another restaurant called Aroka in CB4 that he sold in 2019. This is a very small establishment with 40 seats, very small bar that will have only 3 chairs. To my belief, it's ADA compliant. It's been a restaurant for many, many years. Again, the current person's been there for 10 years. This is the change in ownership. Hours of operation, again, I think I indicated, are 12 to 12, 7 days, midnight closing. So nothing's really changing with the method of operation, with the exception of full liquor as opposed to beer and wine. No rear outside seating. There is the open restaurant side seating. I think there's 6 two-tops, so 12 total tables. And it's an 80 to 20% food to drink ratio. So we'd be glad to address any questions. It's an extensive menu. It's fine Indian cuisine. It's authentic Indian cuisine. So we'd be glad to answer any questions the committee might have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, first I go to members of the public. Mr. Fine.
Thank you. Sorry, was there no public comment opportunity on the last application?
Unfortunately, we ran right into the session, so apologies for that, but you're welcome to opine on right now.
I love opining. Thank you. I for whatever reason, I don't know why I wasn't called on the Shake Shack application, but it seems like a technicality, changing the 5 owners to 4 owners plus a new owner. I just want to say that Shake Shack in general on East 86th Street has been a terrific neighbor. They clean their tree pit, they water their tree pit, they maintain the sidewalk, and they maintain their pup. Or is it a pups? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, on that, I just want to say that I'm not entirely sure why the community board would be so upset by their inability to come to the board on a technicality when members of the community are routinely disregarded altogether. So that being said, I would approve of Shake Shack maintaining their liquor license in current form, and I have no problem with the license ahead of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fine. Just so I think that the main impetus is it's in the law that all applicants are supposed to file and come before the community board. So that is the main objection. It's not a hurt feelings issue. It is actually the fact that they are not complying with the law and circumventing the process, which is why our denial, which may or may not be symbolic to the SLA, is being performed in that way. So thank you.
Fair enough. I appreciate the explanation.
Great. Okay, moving on to Judy.
I'd like to make a motion, and if it's seconded, speak to it, that we approve this application.
Second.
Okay, I live right across the street from this. This is a really old establishment. It was a bar way before the current laws are in effect. So it has the enclosed outside cafe that they use. They've been there, as Mr. Carabello said, for many years. The New York Times, when they opened, wrote them up as the finest Indian restaurant in the city of New York. So I would encourage my fellow board members to support this neighborhood establishment. They keep the place clean. There's nothing negative. I do have a question for Mr. Carabello. I thought Mr. Anand was the prior owner of the restaurant. He is now becoming the owner?
Correct. He is not the owner of record, and the owner of record, gentleman Bindiya Mehandru, was the owner of record. And now he may have been involved in the management end. He has the other establishments in Manhattan, but now he's officially buying into the business.
Okay, fine. Thank you for answering that question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, then Mrs. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe I understood Mr. Carabello to say that he thought it was ADA compliant. Is that a thought, or is that he knows for sure if it's ADA?
No. So it's a pre-existing establishment. I believe the building was built in 1930, my preliminary research. And this establishment's been there for 10 years, and there were restaurants prior to that at that point. So I can't, it doesn't have a ramp. Certainly there's the outside enclosed seating. So I can't speak to, it's my thinking, I could speak to no violations, that there are no ADA violations on the premises. That I can certainly speak to.
Okay, are you saying because the establishment has been there for 30 plus years that it's been grandfathered in and it doesn't have to comply to the ADA?
No, I'm not saying that. Unfortunately, being an architect is not my particular area of expertise. What I am saying is that this is an open restaurant and it's the same business. It's been in your community with a beer and wine license for 10 years. So that's what I am indicating. And then prior to that, there was also a restaurant there for many years as well.
All right, so maybe why don't I restate my question differently? Since there's going to be a new owner, under the new ownership, is the new owner required to comply to ADA regulations? And if you're not sure, could Marco answer that, please?
Yeah, I can't answer specifically to that. It'd be my thinking with a restaurant that has a pre-existing condition that was built. I believe the law goes back to 1987, but again, I'm not an architect. But pre-existing conditions, the ADA really is relative to new buildings and restaurants and businesses that were built after the code was passed. That's my understanding. And just to be clear again, not to repeat myself, but this restaurant's been in your community for 10 years. They've been excellent operators. There's no issues whatsoever. So I will speak to that. The technicality of whether they need to be ADA, I'm not an architect. I know they can't rip up that enclosure outside. I know for sure from a common sense perspective, they couldn't put a ramp. So in terms of the inside, I can't speak to that. If that's something the committee wants me to get back to you on that, we're glad to do it. What I can speak to is there's no violations. And if there were violations, I would obviously advise my clients to rectify them as soon as possible.
Thank you for that, but I'd like to hear from Board Member Mr. Tamayo, because he would have that information hopefully. And I couldn't approve this unless there was a stipulation, because if something was grandfathered in, I could appreciate that. But since there's a new owner, I don't know what the laws state to transfer new owners if they're protected under the grandfather rule, or do they have to comply with the current ADA regulations? Because I, as a disabled person, would want access to the laboratory and to have the handicap bars, as well as a ramp to enter the restaurant. Thank you. Mr. Chair, could we allow Marco to join us, please?
Well, can you unmute Marco?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The way that it works is as follows. Mr. Carvalho, pay attention to that. If you modify something, then the whole regulations kick in. So in this case, you don't touch anything, so you are not obligated to do that. I mean, I don't like to say that, but that's the way that it works. I had to be fair with everybody. And what you can do is, if you have a chance to comply with these regulations, that would be great. But the law is basically, you touch it, you better put it in compliance. You don't touch it. So in this case, you don't touch it, just only you modify the structure, the legal structure of the business. And this is what I plan to support the application. Thank you.
Thank you for that context and clarification, Marco. Really appreciate it. Okay, so Judy.
Yeah, I just want to say that I've been here for 54 years, and this restaurant was here before I moved in. So, and it looks the same. There have been no changes. I mean, other than the color of the walls and the tables and the chairs, it's the same restaurant as it was 54 years ago.
Okay. So yeah, I think the implication from what Marco was saying is that it is grandfathered, and unless they were to make modifications to it, in which case they would have to bring it up to compliance. Mrs. Brown.
I'm a little unclear. So if someone was handicapped in a motorized wheelchair, which they didn't make 50, 30, or 20 years ago, wanted to use the facilities, wanted to use the laboratory, and did not have access to it, what would be the next step for that person? To sue?
Well, it sounds, if I'm understanding what Marco was saying, that this establishment, based on when it was built, is grandfathered in, therefore it is not subject to the regulations unless the proprietors were seeking to make modifications to the establishments, in which case they would then have to bring it up to the compliance.
Yes, I understand that, but what happens to the customer who cannot use the facility?
I cannot speak to that. I'm not an ADA attorney.
All right, well, okay, I see Marco's hands up, and maybe he might have the answer. I'm just curious, thank you.
Marco?
Yeah, let me clarify this issue. If it's up to the restaurant is to provide the bathroom for the customers, it's not required. It's only required for the staff for the personnel of the business. It's up to them to decide yes bathroom or no bathroom. Regrettably, that is the way that the law works. So I'm sorry to say that Mrs. Brown that, but that is in the way that it works. It's up to the owner of the restaurant to decide if it's yes or no, especially if it's small. When it's a large number, now that then become required to have a bathroom for the patrons. Otherwise, if it's in small, it's not required.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have any other committee members with a motion, maybe? Marco.
We call the question.
Okay, so calling the question. Anyone opposed to calling the question on the approval? Seeing none, we will go to the vote. So again, this is a motion to approve. If anyone's voting no, not voting for cause, or abstaining, give give me an indicator, otherwise you will be marked down as a yes. Mrs. Brown?
No.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, this will go as an 8-1 approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Likewise.
Abraham, did you read the names of the board members who are still here?
I still had an 8-1, so I still had Addison, Bill, Evan, Judy, Casey, Marco, Mrs. Brown, Robin, and Russell. And then with me makes 9.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Barry, I'm sorry, did I miss you?
You know, I just raised my hand because I got off the phone with Moe Motel, the restaurant across the street from where I live. And I asked him specifically, are the restrooms ADA compliant? He said, yes, they are. It's wheelchair accessible.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that additional context. That's very helpful.
And that's what I do as a former chair.
That's why we love having you. Thank you. Okay, so moving along on. Yes, Mrs. Brown?
Was Barry speaking to the last applicant?
Yes,
If
he was.
so, I'll change my vote to a yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, you both, for the context and for the update. So that's going to go as a 9-0 unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, so we are now down to our last category, 30-day waiver applications. Do I have a representative for the Greyhawk Grill? And Will or Robert, these followed our normal protocol where the waiver's been granted and they're here to appear for the clarification, for the explanation? Yes?
That is accurate, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. 3A, Greyhawk Grill applicant. Oh, wonderful.
See, just go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hi, welcome. Say your name and tell us a little bit of the circumstances around the waiver requirement.
My name is Steve Milan. I am the owner of Greyhawk Grill on 1556 2nd Avenue between 80th and 81st. Full service sit down American restaurant. We have 74 seats inside, 16 seats outside. The reason for the waiver was just a miscommunication with my attorney. I'm represented by Pazetsky and Bookman. And in the beginning, this is my first time doing getting a renewed liquor license myself. In the beginning of the summer, I spoke with their office and they had it down that I was going to call them and I had it down that they were going to call me. And then when I realized towards the end of the summer that it seemed like it was getting close, I realized that I had missed the day by 8 days. And so I asked the attorney to file the 30-day waiver.
Understood. Thank you very much and appreciate you appearing. For context, we still have anyone? Yeah, for those that don't know, the process for a 30-day waiver is if there's a compelling, reasonable reason for whereby an applicant was unable to meet their 30-day requirement. We grant a one-time waiver and on the condition that the applicant does still come and appear before us to explain the circumstances, and then we vote on that waiver. So with that in mind, do I have anyone from the public on this item? If not, I will go to Judy. I'm sorry, to Marco first. My apologies. Oh, sorry, Mr. Fine, I see your hand may have been up. Yes.
I'm sorry, that just seems like a perfectly rational explanation. So I would approve of the extension. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Marco?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to put a motion. The motion is to approve. Is anybody can second, and then I will speak.
You have a second, sir.
Thank you. Okay, I think this kind of application, we have to move forward. And the only thing is, Mr. Millen, you just destroyed the reputation of Mr. Bookman. Sorry to say that. He will be in trouble with me.
That was
he
not.
was
That was
perfect
not my
in the first
intent.
application. Well,
it was
thank
not
you
my
so much.
intent. All right, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a second, Judy.
Call the question.
Wonderful. I see a second by Addison. Okay, if anyone objects to calling the question, give me a sign. Otherwise, we will go to votes. Okay, so voting here. If anyone's voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, give me an indicator. Otherwise, you will go down as a yes. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 of us plus me makes 10. Okay, seeing no no's, not voting for cause or abstaining, this will go down as approval. So thank you very much and continued good luck to you at the Greyhawk Grill.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 2B. Do I have a representative for Doria Enterprises DBA Grace? Oh, Grace Marketplace.
If you are here to represent this application, please just raise your hand now so that we can unmute you.
Anyone for Grace Marketplace? Okay, not at the moment. I will go on to the next item and then circle back.
I think Joe Doria is here.
Joe. Joe, you have to. Thank you, Addison.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, I'm Joe Doria from Grace's Marketplace, 1299 Second Avenue. This is a renewal for my beer wine application.
Mm-hmm. And what were the circumstances of the need for the waiver?
It was an oversight on my office's part, trying to get the paperwork in on time.
Okay. Okay, understood. And you understand that this is a one-time waiver, and thank you for appearing before us today. Any members of the public?
I'm not seeing any.
Nope. Then I will go to Judy.
Move to approve.
Okay, you have a second. And then I will go to Russell to call the question.
That's right.
Okay, great. So Russell's calling the question. If anyone disapproves of calling the question, give me an indicator, or we will go to the votes. And this is a motion to approve. So if anyone's voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, give me a sign. Otherwise, we'll move down as a yes. And that's it's 9, we have 10-0 vote. Another second. Seeing none. Okay, that'll go as an approval. Thank you very much. And have a good evening.
Thank you, board. Have a good evening.
Likewise. Okay, last item for the evening. 3C KOGV LLC DBA Avena Restaurant. Do I have the representative or applicant for Avena? Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Rosa.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hey there.
The light keeps going off in my office. Give me 1 second. There we go. This is for a late renewal KOGV located at 22 East 66th Street.
Okay, great. And what were the circumstances of the waiver request?
It was a money situation.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Sympathize with that. Okay, then any members of the public? Okay, seeing none, then I'll go to Marco first.
You have Andrew Fine after that.
Oh, you want to go to Andrew Fine first?
Yeah, let's go to Andrew. I'll go to Andrew first.
Yeah, I want to wait.
Okay, Andrew, Mr. Fine.
Thanks, Marco. And that seems like a perfectly legitimate reason for the waiver. So I would support it 100%.
Thank you very much. Marco?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to put a motion to approve and then to speak. Is anybody can second?
Yes, you're seconded.
Okay. So I think in this case clearly shows that she really is in hardship, and we need the full support of from us. And before I finish, I would like to say, Andrew, don't leave, because I'm gonna call as an all items later and talk about the Shake Shack. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marcos. So I will go to Judy.
Call the question.
Okay, great. I see a thumbs up for that. Okay, if anyone's opposed to calling the question, give me an indication. Otherwise, we'll go to a vote. Again, this is a motion to approve. If anyone's voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, give me an indicator. Otherwise, this is a 10-0 approval. Okay, seeing none, so this is approved. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you guys for coming, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Okay, great. And then just following up on Marco's cue, we've gone through all of the items on the agenda, but Marco has some old business, so I will let I will cede the floor to Marco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm talking about the Shake Shack issue. Okay. In the way that Andrew presented to us, yes, it looks like he is a very nice neighbor. However, he is using the pubs. Pubs is not for a personal business like Shake Shack they are using. What they do in Shake Shack is they use it, but they allow to use everybody else. And I think in the nice way to use a public space, they're gonna collaborate to clean the plants and do whatever it is. I think it's good, but I don't think it's fair at all, because to say you are a large company and you just clean outside, maintain that one. We shouldn't do that. I think what Russell presented to us, I think it was right. And I think Shake Shack, they using us because the pubs is not for a business, it's for the whole community. And in this case, yes, Shake Shack allows to have the community go inside and eat in their tables. I think it's good. There's nothing wrong, because the problem is these pubs is sunk. And that's the biggest problem with this kind of the pubs. They should be at the street level, and in the street level, the community should enjoy that. And that was the main idea, not to create business. But in this case, they are using the Shake Shack and making money from that part. And I think I'm not opposed to that, but I think it's wrong when they said I'm a large corporation, I shouldn't be here. Thank you. I'm sorry, Andrew.
Okay, thank you, Marco. Mr. Fine, again, address any comments at me. We're not going to do any crosstalk.
Okay, without crosstalk, I'll do my best here. I understand the concerns regarding the publicly used private space, or vice versa, the pubs. And I do agree, this is largely abused. There's no doubt about that. The pubs for Shake Shack is below grade. And it's not open 24 hours a day. I'm not sure if that's like legal or not. So that might be another concern to add to Marco's list, and that's fair enough. My comment was only towards the fact that Shake Shack has been a good neighbor. They've kept things clean. I personally tend 53 tree pits between Park Avenue and 2nd Avenue on 86th Street. And I can tell you that the couple of pits in front of Shake Shack are watered and clean, and they're probably the two best with top five or top six tree pits on that entire stretch. So I think the privately used public space is a whole different situation, and that should be totally looked at. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of them being a good neighbor, I can testify that they are a good neighbor, and they've also, by the way, contributed portions of their concrete sales to the East 86th Street Association. So they've been a contributor as well, a minor, but a contributor and a good community member. That's all I have to say. And I love to look into the the pups further in a different forum. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And Mrs. Brown.
Yes, thank you. This comment is regarding public members, regarding the motion that Chair Squire had made regarding Shake Shack. The public needs to understand that a business could be a good neighbor, follow the rules and help out different associations, but there are certain protocols that must be followed by the community board. And to be dismissive like that is disrespectful. And if we make an exception for one business because they do other good things, then other businesses are going to state, well, you made an exception for Shake Shack. So the rules are applicable to all, and we all must follow the protocols and be respectful of our decisions. Thank you. When it comes to appearing before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Okay, I invite a motion, but I will go to Barry first.
Oh, I forgot to say motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much.
Before you think,
I do
because you
have
forgot.
a second, but I will allow Barry to speak since I
Thank
did.
you very much. Let me amplify what she just said. We are a city agency coded by the charter. I'm concerned that we are beginning to walk away from democracy by not appearing at a hearing that's you received a summons for or a petition for, and we are only a tiny agency, but the whole city, the whole country is drifting in the wrong direction. You do not avoid going to a governmental agency because you're too big. And I reject their argument. I'm too big to go to my kid's school, but I go. And I'm just very concerned about where we're drifting. And well, I don't have to go because I'm too big for you guys. Sounds like someone I know. Used to live in Manhattan. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Barry. Okay, so we have the motion to adjourn. It's been seconded. So if anyone objects, let me know. Otherwise, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your participation. Really appreciate it, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye-bye.